of the issues, I actually think that subsequent actions of the CJ have vindicated me, because my biggest gripe with the CJ at the time was the lack of her using the agent of her office to impose urgency in the case. After the demonstration, you saw her begin to give timelines, which is exactly what my argument had been. And we moved on. Post the elections, you saw the way she dispensed with the case expeditiously. So it is not to say that what I was asking of her was unreasonable. It was well within her office, but for whatever reason she failed to act.
But you notice that now that you're in government, the speed with which that same law is being implemented. In fact, there's no law because there's a new parliament. But we don't see the same level of fervor. We don't hear much about it anymore.
So let me just state for the records that we have resubmitted the bill, because I mean the view that's held is that, even though I hold the contrary view, but the prevailing view in Parliament is that the law lapsed with the 8th Parliament. And so we've come together, a number of us signed the same bill as was passed by Parliament. No edits, no change. We've laid it before Parliament, but the issue now is that Parliament has changed the standing orders. Previously, when you submitted a private member's bill, it just went straight to the Constitutional and Legal Parliamentary and Legal Committee, and then you started your public hearings and all. Now there is a standing committee on private members' bills. The process has changed. So we've laid it before the Speaker, we've submitted it to the Speaker, he's referred it to the committee. The committee has gone on recess now. The Parliament is on recess, and so we're hoping that when Parliament comes back from recess, the committee would start its public hearings, and then we'll proceed with it. So for me, again, don't forget that when I laid the bill originally in 2021, it was not until 2023 that we began to see the public sittings and all of that. When I laid the bill the first time, for over 18 months, there was a lot of quiet in Parliament. There was a lot of conversation in the media, but it was quiet in Parliament because it had to go through a setting process in Parliament. So it's not new. So it's fair for people to say, oh, we're not hearing anything, but the parliamentary process will be followed.
So at what point would you begin to apply the kind of pressure you applied in the last term for this bill? At what point would you consider that it's delaying?
Well, like I said, it's been about 4 weeks since we submitted the bill.
Okay.
And like I said, I walked about almost 23 months the first time before we began to see the movement on the floor of the House. And so at least let's give ourselves...
But since the work has already been done, it should move faster.
I'm hopeful. But like I said, the committees were changed. We only had our committee leadership determined about 2 weeks ago. So committees are now actually being set up in Parliament. The committees are now coming to terms with what... So let's allow the committees to be formed properly. Let them be seized with the material before them. And then I will begin to apply pressure on the committee. Because, well, when we laid it before, Mr. Speaker, there was no chairman of the committee. So who was I going to put pressure on to work on? Because at that time, both the majority and the minority had not determined the membership of the committees. That was done.
So the 8 of you who pushed this bill?
I think this time we're even more than 8.
Okay, because some have left Parliament.
Some have left Parliament and new people have come on. I think we're about 12 this time.
But you are all from the NDC this time.
Oh, no.
They're also MPP as well.
See, now, interestingly, and that's at times, I don't want to call it politics of convenience, but interestingly, persons who didn't want to have their names on the bill from the MPP side 4 years ago have jumped on it now and put their names. Right now, I think you even have almost the same split of NDC MPP on the bill.
So if somebody said you exploited the bill for political advantage, what would be your reaction? That I don't doubt that you believe in the content of the bill, but you also saw a political advantage to be gained in painting the opposition, the government at the time, as not being in favor of Ghanaian family values, which is why you pushed it to the limit that you pushed it.
Well, that would be unfair. My actions speak to the contrary. If I'm right, I believe the president had said that he believes this bill should be handled by the state.
The current president?
Yes. But based on my personal convictions, at my vetting, I indicated that because this was pushed by my personal beliefs and by my chiefs who were present at my vetting, I would reintroduce the bill as a private member's bill. The government will have the liberty to take it over whilst it's before Parliament. I've stuck to my word. So if it was political expediency, I would have hidden behind the president's comments and said I was waiting for the president to bring in the bill as a government bill. I have stuck to my guns, stuck to my principles again and my morals, and shown that I'm a man of my
Fair
words.
enough. So if it delays, probably demo like you did in 2024.
If I need to do a demo against the Chief Justice, if it goes to court, because don't forget, the demo I did was against the Chief Justice, wasn't against Parliament.
The delay.
The delay
the perceived delay.
Yes, yeah.
I see.